Can you roast tea leaves at home? This is something we wanted to test, so we set up a quick tea experiment. Hojicha is a very common form of roasted green tea, and it's made by simply roasting the leaves of different Japanese green teas. You can make Hojicha from sencha, bancha, and kukicha. This may look like a black tea, but it's actually a type of green tea because the leaves used are unoxidized. Hojicha is usually made in either a large roasting machine or a large hot pan. The hot pan technique is something we learned when we met Mr. Issen, one of the farmers we work with that also produces a kamairacha, or partially roasted tea, in addition to Hojicha, a fully roasted tea. At one point or another, I decided I would try to roast my own Hojicha at home to see if I could replicate the taste profile of this famous Japanese green tea. For this experiment, I took out some Kukicha Sakamoto, one of the stem teas produced by Mr. Sakamoto in Shibushi. I find that I have gotten better results by using stem teas, as the stems tend to roast a bit faster and darker than the leaves. As you can see, this tea is actually a mixture of both stems and leaves, so we will be getting a little taste of each. This roasted stem tea is a concept that Mr. Issen uses when he makes his famous Kuki Hojicha. I added some leaves to a pan and turned on the stove. When it comes to roasting your own tea at home, just know that it will take a while before you see any signs of roasting, but after 5 minutes or so, the leaves will begin to roast quite quickly, so make sure you keep an eye on your stove. Also make sure that your kitchen is well ventilated because you might set off a smoke alarm like I did. You'll want to keep the leaves moving pretty quickly so that they can roast evenly. You will notice that if there are small pieces of leaves in the pan, these will roast the fastest, so just be mindful of that. For this particular Hojicha, I decided to go for a medium roast, but you can experiment with how much you like. Once the leaves turn a light brown color, I decided to take them off the heat and see how they turned out. As you'll notice, the color changed completely from the unroasted leaves to the roasted leaves. What was once a collection of yellow and green now becomes an assortment of various shades of brown. Whether or not this tea is better than the unroasted version is a matter of opinion, but this experiment wouldn't be complete without doing a quick taste test. I decided it might be helpful to compare the roasted tea alongside the unroasted version. That way I could see if the Hojicha I created was in fact a different tea altogether, or if I just ruined an already good tea. I put the roasted leaves into my Kyushu teapot and then added in some warm water. Normally Hojicha works well at higher temperatures of between 175 and 185 degrees Fahrenheit, but I wanted to test it out at a lower temperature first. The reason for this is that a good Hojicha becomes sweeter when you brew it with cooler water, so I wanted to test it out at 140 degrees Fahrenheit first. When I took a sip, the first thing I noticed was this nice sweet caramel note, which can be expected from a high quality Hojicha. This is definitely a good sign, but I wanted to test one more thing. I wanted to see if the tea could stand up to a higher temperature and a second brewing. A strong marker of a good quality tea is that it can be brewed multiple times without losing flavor. In the second brewing, I used 175 degrees Fahrenheit and let the tea brew for about 1 minute. It produced a much darker color, and the taste fell more on these notes of black coffee with a hint of dark chocolate. I also got a little bit of carob, which is often used as a chocolate replacement. So what is actually happening here? When we compare the tea side by side with its unroasted counterpart, we notice that the color and taste is completely different. When the leaves undergo a roasting process, a lot of the more vegetable characteristics are cooked off and the tea changes dramatically. This is not to say that the tea is better or worse, but it's just a trade-off. The tea trades these fresh citrusy and vegetable characteristics for darker and warmer flavors like coffee, caramel, and chocolate. These taste profiles are definitely more suitable for colder weather, so in the winter I like to roast some of my Kukicha tea and turn it into Hojicha. I find that the freshly roasted tea is very pleasant, and sometimes I like the ability to control how light or dark the roast is. If you want to try this experiment and roast your own tea at home, the Kukicha Osada is by far the best tea I've found for hand roasting. If you would like to skip all the steps and just get your Hojicha pre-roasted, we recommend the pan-roasted Kuki Hojicha from Mr. Issen. This is the darkest Hojicha we offer, so it will have more of these dark chocolate or black coffee flavor profiles. If you want to try a sweeter Hojicha, we recommend going for the Noike Hojicha, a much lighter roasted tea produced by Mr. Noike in Wazuka. Thank you all so much for making it to the end of the video. If you like these experiments or you have an idea of what we should do in the future, please let us know in the comments below. Also, make sure that you're subscribed so we can see you for future experiments and tastings. Until then, we'll see you next time.
쿠키 호시.